everyone, it's Dr. Campbell, and today I'm going to provide you with an introduction to the ICD-10-PCS expert, and I have the 2019 edition that was published by Optum 360. So to begin, I want you to find the area that is titled Contents. And what you'll want to do to start is to review the following items: the introduction, pages 1 through 18. You'll also want to review the ICD-10-PCS index and tabular format, pages 21 through 21. Also, the ICD-10 additional features, page 23 and 24. The ICD-10-PCS official guidelines for coding and reporting. You'll also just want to very briefly review the index as well as the tables. The index and the tables are what we're going to be using as we learn how to dissect our operative reports and build our codes. So let's take a look at what's listed under the introduction. So first, you have the history of the ICD-10-PCS system. After that, you go into other areas, such as the code structure, the number of codes, and in 2019, we have a whopping 78,881,000 codes for 2019. After that, the introduction goes into the index and why we use the index. It then goes into the tables. Now, some of this information you may have to read several times in order for it to stick. One of the things that you'll notice about the ICD-10-PCS system is that it's not something that you learn how to use overnight, okay? As a student who is seeing the ICD-10-PCS manual for the very first time, if you are enrolled in a course, please allow yourself 4 to 5 weeks to become familiar with the use of the manual. And when I say familiar, I mean at the most basic level. You will not master ICD-10-PCS in 8 weeks, in 16 weeks. I don't care what length of course you're taking at a college or university. You're not going to master the PCS system in that short amount of time. It's not until you're using the system for about 3 to 5 years where you become familiar with it, okay? So please make sure that you review all of the introduction, and you're just really reviewing the introduction to begin to just become aware of the system and the manual. Again, no one is asking you to memorize the manual, just read for understanding. Once you take your course on ICD-10-PCS coding, your instructor will really get into the nuts and bolts. My goal for today is just to introduce you to the components, the contents of the manual. So remember that portion on the ICD-10-PCS index and tabular format? That's there, very important. The additional features, very, very important, because there are some color coding symbols that are in the ICD-10-PCS manual, and that's important when you're using this particular manual, okay? And then the color coding continues, and it is so important that you understand this before you read any textbook chapter, that you just understand, okay, what's the yellow bar for? What's the purple bar for? What's the gray bar for? What's the blue bar for? Very, very important. Okay? After that, you're going to get into the ICD-10-PCS official guidelines for coding and reporting. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up. You may have to read this a couple of times. And again, you're not reading so that you understand it 100% and that you master it 100%, because you're setting yourself up for failure if you think you can master this in a few days or a few weeks. Those of us that are experienced coders, when we first learned how to use this system, we did not learn it immediately. So, you're brand new. Accept that you're brand new. It's kind of like when you're learning a new sport, right? When you're learning a new sport, first you got to get all your equipment. Then you got to get your lessons. So right now, you're getting your equipment together, which are your code manuals and your guidelines. And then from there, you're going to have your coach that's going to guide you through the process. But just like any player in a sport, you have to have your tools and you have to understand how to use your tools. So your ICD-10-PCS guidelines, read for understanding. You may have to read them more than once, okay? After that, you have your ICD-10-PCS index. And this looks like a dictionary because it's in alphabetical order. And for you guys as new coders, when I'm training you, I'm always going to start with the index because I don't want to guide you in a way that's going to be confusing. So even though you're going to read in the guidelines that you do not need to use the index, you can build your code directly from the tables, my approach is always going to be to take you directly to the index. So the next thing I recommend that you do is look at the index. Again, you're not going to memorize any of this information. I just want you to read it to just get a feel for it. And here, guys, it's okay if you just browse through this area, but just get a feel for the fact that you have words that are in bold print. Underneath the words that are in bold print, sometimes you have something which is called a convention called C. C is telling you see something else, or you see something like use something else. So you might have gone to abdominoplasty, but under abdominoplasty, you're being told C alteration, C repair, C supplement. Now, remember I mentioned in another video about you learning the root operations? Well, alteration, repair, and supplement are actually root operations. And so, you know how they say Rome was not built in a day? Learning how to use the ICD-10-PCS manual doesn't happen in a day. Now, you may be wondering, why do I continue to repeat that? Because I know some of you, you're like me, you're like type A, and when you learn something, you want to master it. You must have patience because this is not that subject matter. It's like when I tried to learn Spanish, for example. I was very frustrated with myself because I was like, I'm smart. I should be able to learn this very quickly. Learning Spanish is learning another language. Learning ICD-10-PCS coding is learning another language. One of the challenges with ICD-10-PCS is you have to incorporate your knowledge of medical terminology and anatomy. But then the ICD-10-PCS system may give you a slight twist to anatomy and medical terminology, and then you might get frustrated and say, why is it like this? It is the way it is. The way PCS defines something is how it's defined, and you as a brand new coder, you don't challenge it, you go with the flow. Okay, so the index is in alphabetical order. It starts on page 31, and it goes all the way over to page 124. And notice on page 124, you have the letter Y, you have the letter Z, so you're at the end. After that, you have what are known as the ICD-10-PCS tables. And before you get to the actual tables, it usually starts off with some anatomical diagrams. And so you see here, diagram of the brain. And then you go into what's known as your table. And the ultimate goal is for us to build an ICD-10-PCS code. And all ICD-10-PCS codes have 7 characters. So for example, this is table 005. All tables have 3 characters. All tables have 3 characters. Oh, I got a hangnail. All tables have 3 characters, okay? They start off with 3 characters. The first character tells you what section you're in. The second character tells you the body system. And this is the medical and surgical section that I'm looking at right now. The third character is known as the root operation. Remember I told you that it's critical for you to learn the 31 root operations? Now is the time. And remember I mentioned to you that AHIMA had some flashcards for ICD-10-PCS. Guys, I have flashcards as well. And that is because it takes a lot of tools to learn the ICD-10-PCS system. So it is so critical that you have, even if you make your own, you must learn your root operations. There are no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Root operations, guys, are going to be critical. And before you start to read any textbook, you got to start off with just learning those root operations. So for example, notice here I have the definition of destruction. I have the same thing on my flashcards that I got from AHIMA. Same thing, I have the definition, the objective, the site of the procedure. Okay, we'll talk about the tables in more detail, but they are the largest portion. After that, you're going to have your appendices. And oftentimes I've found when I'm training new coders, I'm going to start with the beginning. When I'm training new coders, I've found that you never even go and look at the appendices in your books. Well, this is a book that requires you to utilize the appendices. So we start off with components of the medical and surgical approach definitions. Oh, by the way, if you buy the AHIMA flashcards, hey, I don't work for AHIMA. I'm giving you all of the tools that you need. So AHIMA has taken the time to create these flashcards for you. You can buy them, makes life so much easier. Here's my flashcard on the approach. All right, let's put all that to the side. You see my table is all my PCS tools are there. So Appendix A, medical and surgical approach definitions. And they got some cool pictures. I'm visual as well, so highly recommend that you use those. After that, you have Appendix B. This is your root operation definition. You are given the character value for that root operation. And let's see if I can make this zoom in just a little bit more for you guys on this one. Yeah, okay. So 0 is always going to be used for alteration. Notice I have, look at these hangnails. I need a manicure so bad. All right, back to you guys. So you have the definition, the explanation, and the examples, okay? All of this is about alteration. So Appendix B goes through all 31 root operations for the medical and surgical section. After that, it goes into root operations for other sections. In your course, you're going to spend most of your time on medical and surgical, and that's why I said it's critical that you learn the definitions of the root operations for medical and surgical. Okay, after that, we're going to go to Appendix C. And Appendix C gives you a comparison of the medical and surgical root operations. So remember I mentioned in a previous video that the root operations were divided into groups, and there were a total of 9 groups. So here in Appendix C, you get your different root operations divided by the different groups. And what I like about this, let's get up close and personal with this, okay? What I like about this, here I'm noticing that these are the root operations that take out some or all of a body part, okay? But then it gives me my 5 root operations, and it allows me to do a side-by-side comparison on the differences between them. So for example, destruction, eradicating without taking out or replacement. Detachment, cutting out, off without replacement. Excision, cutting out, off without replacement. Extraction, pulling out or off without replacement. Then we have resection, cutting out or off without replacement. So if I were you, I would learn the root operations in groups, and I would notice a trend. Do you notice a word? Let's isolate this here. Do you notice a word that appears in every definition for this grouping? Yeah, if you said replacement, you're absolutely correct. So you know for these five root operations, there is no replacement that is taking place. So as you begin to decide if you want to use this root operation, you're like, wait a minute, okay, no replacement. Then notice some other subtle differences. Cutting out, cutting out. Uh-oh. Well, what's the difference between excision and replacement? I'll tell you. Some of a body part, all of a body part. Some of a body part, all of a body part. So guys, again, critical that you learn them in groups, but you have to learn what they mean. All right, after that, we have Appendix D, which is our body part key. Now, with ICD-10-PCS, this body part key is going to prove to be very helpful because you're going to make some assumptions about what you think you remember from your anatomy class and what body part this is. This body part key here is going to be very important because you will see how PCS defines the body part, and how PCS defines the body part is what you must follow when you're using this manual. Okay, after that, we're going to go to Appendix E, body part definitions, like here. The first toe, left and right, includes the hallux. Okay, after that, let's see what else we got. Appendix F, device key and aggregation table. Now, this is going to be important because in some of your procedures, the doctor's going to insert a device. And so you'll want to know who PCS defines a device. One thing you'll want to know about this device key is it does not give you all of the devices out there. You may have to Google the device to learn more about it. Okay? After that, we're going to have Appendix G, which gives you your device definitions. After that, Appendix H, substance key and substance devices. And you probably are wondering, well, what's a substance? Well, think about substances that are infused into patients. And guys, one of the things I want you to know about coding, you must accept the fact that you don't know everything about the language of medicine, and you must accept the fact that whether it's a medical word or an English word, you have to look it up so that you understand it for yourself. All right, after that, we have Appendix I, which is sections B through H, character definitions. And guys, again, you're not going to memorize this. When you take your national exams, you're going to have your manuals with you. So you just need to become very intimate with your code manuals. And when I say intimate, I mean knowing where things are. So like, I shouldn't have to tell you Appendix A is where XYZ is. You should become familiar with what's in your manual. When you take national coding exams, you take your manuals with you. So it's critical that if you're enrolled in a course, that you learn how to use your manual. All right, Appendix J is all about hospital-acquired conditions. We're going to pass through that and keep on rolling. Okay, now, this happens to be one of my favorite parts of the book for a new coder. This gives you some practice with utilizing the ICD-10-PCS system. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on this, but this is where you have the opportunity. Let's see how many questions we have for 2019. So for medical and surgical alone, 248 questions for the 2019 version where you can practice with this. That's just medical and surgical. Then they go into obstetrics and placement. But then, guys, guess what? They go into the other areas as well. And one of my favorites part about this, yeah, the answers. So you can practice with the manual. All right, so next up, we have Appendix L, the procedure combination tables. And then, guys, that's it. But you have some notes pages. Now, before you write any notes here, make sure that it's something that's very important for you to know. Don't just go in here and start writing things, because when you take your national exams, they will they'll check your manuals to see what notes you have in there. As long as you have information that helps you with day-to-day coding, that's okay. So let's just talk about the index and building a code, and that's what we're going to end on today. So let's say that a patient is having, let's say they had something removed, all right? So first thing is you got to know, well, where do I begin? Usually you can begin with your root operations. Well, if you don't know your root operations, you don't even know, what removal is. But let's just say I went over to removal. Because let's say something was being removed. Now, if you notice, when I go to removal, I have one option here. Let's get our focus on in here. All right, one option here for removal. And then it kind of continues over onto the next page. And then after that, I have, let's see if you can see this. Let's get our focus on here. Yeah, okay, removal of a device. And that's probably the biggest portion of the removal options. So guys, if you don't want to spin your wheels, guys, literally, if you don't want to spin your wheels, you got to learn those 31 root operations for the medical and surgical section, because that will help you say, well, no, that's not the right root operation because that does not apply to this type of procedure, okay? So let's say, oh, I don't want to code removal. Let's code something else. Let's code something I want to have. All right, I want to have a tummy tuck. And so I know that tummy tuck is coded, let me get myself lined up so you can see me, to the root operation of alteration. I'm on page 31 in the ICD-10-PCS manual. Okay, so alteration, and I want to get the tummy tuck in my stomach. Abdominal wall gives me 0W0F. Now, I know you probably are thinking, that's a O. Well, no, actually, in ICD-10-PCS, we don't use the letter O and the letter I because it could be confused with the number 0 and 1. So, and then when you see this slash in it, that lets you know that it's a 0. So, 0W0F. Now, remember I said that all PCS tables start with 3 characters. So I'm actually going to find table 0W0. But the reason that that F is there is because that F pertains to the body part, which is the abdominal wall. Okay. So 0, oh, just like here, arm. This is F for lower left arm. And then D for lower right arm. Likewise, here is upper arm, left and right, but still the arm. Axilla, left and right. So notice how one character changes what was done on the patient's body, what body part. So with coding, it's either right or wrong. One character missing and it's wrong. All right, so back to my tummy tuck. 0WF. So what I have to do, guys, see these colored pages? I have to turn them to locate table 0W0. But I want you to see here, notice in the upper right-hand corner, I have the table numbers. So we start off with 001, because this is in the nervous system. So let me show you over here. 001, page 128. So I'm looking for 0W0, right? So I'm going to keep turning. Let's see. That's 0KT. I'm looking for 0W0. Starts off with numbers, then it goes to letters. 0W0. I'm getting close. All right, I found it. I'm on page 650, and I'm at table 0W0. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you guys could see this whole page. Okay, I'm at table 0W0. So actually what happens is I can now build my code, right? So remember, I already knew that it was F for abdominal wall. Remember that? Remember that? And then the next thing, so that's my 4th character. Next thing from that, I have to identify the approach. Now, remember I showed you Appendix A, which had the surgical approach definitions. So in addition to learning the medical and surgical root operations, all 31 of them, you should also learn the 7 approaches for the ICD-10-PCS system for medical and surgical. Then from there, I need to know my device, and from there, my qualifier. So a couple of things, because I know some of you are freaking out, like, how am I going to do all of this? Guys, just like a baby has to learn how to walk, they got to crawl before they can walk. Same thing with you. Take your time, read through the documents that have been provided to you, learn the different areas of your manual. And you know what? I just realized I don't have to actually show you in a separate video how to use that cool thing in the back? Remember I showed you those exercises? Because I just showed you. So let's keep on going with that. So remember, you had the appendix that has the exercises. So we're going to do the very first one, and I'm going to be on page 907. So here says excision of malignant melanoma of the skin from the right ear. So first I got to know my root operation. So I'm going to help you out and tell you that this is an excision. Why? Because the doctor is taking out part of the ear. He's not taking out the whole ear. That would be resection. We're not doing removal because we're not removing a device. Uh-oh, look what I just found. My flashcard for removal. Taking out or off a device from a body part. So I know removal is out. If you have small kids, I would get these flashcards and I would say, you're going to help mommy or daddy or aunt or whomever study. Okay, here's revision. What does revision mean? Cutting out or off a portion of a body part. The objective, cutting out or off without replacement some or all of a body part. So I know that I'm going to go with the root operation of excision. There are 31 root operations, and guys, you've got to learn them, okay? Very, very important. So I'm going to go back up front. I'm going to go to my index. I'm going to look for the letter E. Some of you may ask, do I recommend putting tabs on your book to know where certain things are? It's up to you. I will tell you that you cannot have them when you are taking a national exam. And so you got to decide if that's something you want to do, because knowing that you'll have to take them off. I say just get to know your book and forget all those tabs, okay? So excision, and this was an excision of a malignant, I want to make sure you can see it, malignant melanoma from the skin of the right ear. Okay, so I'm at excision, and I want to go to excision of skin. So I'm at excision. Let me just show you. I'm at excision, page 56. And then I'm going to go to skin. And from skin, I'm going to go to ear. Uh-oh, I got to know if it's left or right. Well, notice it's giving me the entire code. 0HB 3XY if it's the left ear. 0HB 2XZ. I didn't mean to say Y. XZ if it's the right ear. So now I got to find that scenario again, because I can't remember. I know you're thinking, you can't remember that? Nope, I can't remember that, because I'm trying to talk and show you all this at the same time. So it's the right ear. So that is 0HB2XZ. Okay, one rule of coding. You can never, ever, 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 ever code from the index. You must always go to your table. So 0HB. Tables are the colored pages. And I'm going to look for table 0HB. That was good luck for me to go over there. Yay, me. Okay, so table 0HB, 0 medical and surgical, H skin and breast, B excision, and it was the skin of the ear, and it was the right ear, so that's the number 2, X, Z, uh-oh, you can't see that, X for approach, Z for device, and then they want to know the qualifier, was it diagnostic or not? No, so that's a Z. So 0HB, 2 for right ear, X, Z, Z. Okay, Here's the $1 million moment. Was my code correct for question number 1? Yay, me! Let me zoom in. Yay, I was correct. 0HB 2XZZ. These are not number 2s, guys. These are Z's. If you write it as a 2, it's wrong. It has to be a ZZ. All right, guys. So that has been your introduction to the 2019 ICD-10-PCS expert. And I'll be back, guys, with more cool tools. But what's your homework? What do you need to do next? Yes, you said it. You need to review the table of contents, all the areas that I spoke of. Again, I'm going to repeat them again. The introduction, the ICD-10-PCS. Let me zoom in so you can see this. ICD-10-PCS index and tabular format, the additional features, the guidelines, and guys, that's pretty much, oh, don't forget, the appendices. All right, so now I am done with your introduction to your ICD-10-PCS expert. Dr. Campbell signing off, and I'll see you real soon.